Today I am working on rendering down the fat from the beef that we just had processed. This was half of the fat that we received. It was one box full, and I've kind of divided it amongst these three pots here. And all I'm going to do is pour a little bit of water in the bottom of each one, and that will prevent this from sticking as it begins to heat and melt down. I'm just going to put this in the oven today and let it render that way. You can do it on the stove, you can do it in a crock pot. I don't have anything big enough to handle all of this, so if I just divide it quickly into these little containers and stick them in the oven, that's a way that I can get this done today and not have to really babysit it. Actually, my one pot ended up being too big to fit on the top shelf, so I put the rest in a crock pot here on low. And then the oven is on the lowest setting possible. You don't want to scorch your fat, so get it as low as you can get it, and this will just melt down today. So the fat has been rendering down in the crock pot for over 24 hours now. You can see it bubbling, and it's melted into a nice liquid. This is our tallow, so now I just need to take a ladle and kind of skim off the liquid and get it in jars. And then I'll have more room to add more fat. And then we'll let this keep going for another 24 hours. I was able to skim off 3 quarts of tallow so far, and then you can see everything else that's left. It's about half full, so I'm going to fill this the rest of the way with some more fat. And then tomorrow, hopefully, we can get the same amount here. But as you can see, it's kind of a yellow, golden color now. And as this cools, it'll become white, just like with lard. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about storage. This is the tallow that I just took out of the crock pot. As you can see, when it is hot, it is a golden liquid color. And as it cools, it turns this creamy white color. The experts, the food safety experts, say that this rendered fat will be shelf stable for up to 6 months. So just as it is in this jar, as long as it's in a nice airtight jar and it was a clean container when you put it in, this can sit on your shelf for up to 6 months and it will be perfectly safe. If you're not going to use it up within 6 months, if you put it in the fridge, it will be good for between 12 to 18 months. If you're not going to use it up within 18 months, stick it in the freezer and it will be good for forever. And you don't have to worry about freezing these in glass jars because it doesn't really expand since it is a solid. It's not like a liquid that you're going to have expansion that can break your glass. So just make sure there's a little headspace and you'll be fine putting this in the freezer. Now if you want to put these on the pantry shelf, a little hack, something that you can do when it's really hot, straight outside, coming out of the crock pot or whatever, flip that jar upside down and leave it for about 10 minutes to heat up the lid. And then when you flip it back over, it will seal. I did that to the ones yesterday and the lids popped down and it sealed. It's not necessary to do that. It's fine just as is. What, buddy? Oh, you need some help? Sorry, I've got a little munchkin here that needs help. Oh no, that broke. Okay, I'll go fix it in a second, okay? Let me finish this. I'll fix you in a minute. It isn't necessary to seal the lids that way. It just kind of gives you an extra layer of protection if you're going to put them on your pantry shelf. So that is an option. A couple other questions that I got yesterday when I posted this on IG, on Instagram. People wanted to know why we didn't cut the fat up before I put it in the crock pot. Well, doing it the way I did it is simply the laziest way to do it. I was in a rush yesterday and just wanted to get it in the crock pot quickly, so I didn't cut it up. We have before run the fat through a meat grinder or chopped it into little tiny cubes and put that in the crock pot or on the stove, and if you do that, it is going to melt down so much more quickly. But the benefit of not chopping it is it's a lot less work. It just takes a little longer to melt down. So you can do it either way you want to. Other questions were about how we plan to use this, and mostly I use this as a cooking fat. I've done an entire video before on rendering lard, and I will link that in the description below. Lard is odorless and tasteless and is wonderful for baking. Tallow, however, does have a slightly meaty flavor, so I prefer this as a cooking fat for things like frying potatoes or frying my eggs up. And so that is primarily how we use it. Anything that we aren't going to be using for cooking, we will use for soap making or making things like skin moisturizers. It is wonderful for that. So yeah, and I will take you along on all those processes as I, make my cosmetics and things out of it. All right, if you have any more questions about rendering tallow, leave it in the comments below and I'll make sure to get to that. Otherwise, I've got to run the kids to the orthodontist, and when we get back today, we'll be doing a little more kitchen work. I've got some zucchini to shred up and freeze, and I have 2 bushels of pears coming today that we need to get canned. So, all right, I'm going to go help him, and then we'll get busy.
I love you.
You love me?
Yes.
Well, guess what? I love you too. That's pretty special.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say?
No.
You don't want to say anything? Let me see how this one's on here. What did you do to this?
Nothing.
Are you silly?
No.
You need a haircut.
No.
Well, you're going to do a haircut today.
No.
Yes!
No.
I think I did. I think we got it, buddy. I think that'll work. What do you think? What do you say? I love you. We're back home and everybody is snacking on a pear. How's your pear, John?
Good.
Good. What do you think, guys? Yummy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had fresh pears. Probably since last year. All right, we've got quite a few to preserve. Everybody just ate lunch, and now Gracie and I are going to work on turning this into salsa. This will be our first project for today. We just have some odds and ends tomatoes, some garlic, some random peppers from the garden, an onion. This is some frozen lemon juice that we froze from a citrus order in January. Just a little half pint, and we're just going to mix all this together with some cilantro and other spices, and we'll make a delicious salsa. Gracie's my salsa girl. She loves it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she could eat chips and salsa like every day. So we'll see how much of this ends up in jars and how much we eat right now. First thing she's doing is just getting the tomatoes. She's cutting the tops off and then kind of slicing them in half and putting them in our blender. And we're just going to pulse it in the blender to get these chopped up. It saves a little time. In our first step, we pulsed approximately 8 cups of tomatoes in the blender, and it's just slightly chunky in texture because that's how we like it. We put in 1½ cups of sliced green peppers. Blended up 1 whole white onion in the blender. We used the blender so we wouldn't be crying as we were slicing it, right, Gracie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just 1 onion, and we like it really finely blended. She chopped 5 cloves of garlic and is adding that. Starting to smell delicious. And then we put 5 sweet banana peppers through the blender also. This was to save us from getting pepper juice on our hands. And we're just going to add that to the pot. And then we'll start adding some of our spices and other ingredients. Now she's adding 2 teaspoons of cumin. Teaspoon of salt. She's just going to pour in about a couple tablespoons worth of lemon juice. These are from fresh squeezed lemons that we had frozen over the winter. She's going to stir it all together. It's going to taste delicious. I can't wait, Gracie. Should we get down some chips to try it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Gracie's taste testing it. We'll see if she approves. You approve, sister?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good? All right, if she doesn't think we need to add anything else, we're going to start getting this all into pint jars, and then we'll get it in the water bath. Now we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid to each jar just to ensure acidity. Since I'm kind of making up this recipe, this will ensure that there's enough acid to keep this safe. And then we're going to water bath can it. Next order of business is getting this zucchini off my kitchen counter. We have these baseball bat-sized zucchinis that we need to work on freezing up. So instead of taking so much time to shred them with our little hand shredder, first we're using our veggie spiralizer, and I will link this in the description. And we're just making some zucchini noodles, and then what I'll do is take my kitchen scissors and chop these up a little bit, and those will be our zucchini shreds that we will freeze for baking. Gracie, poor thing, is left-handed, so this device is created for right-handed people. It's kind of awkward for her to use, but she is figuring it out, aren't you, sister? So now we just take our kitchen scissors and kind of chop up the little zucchini noodles and get them into tiny shreds to be frozen. So the process for freezing these is the same that we do for shredded carrots. I just use a standard muffin tin, and each muffin cup holds approximately a half a cup of the shredded carrot or zucchini. So we're going to flash freeze it in the muffin tin. And then once it's completely frozen, we can pull these out. And it does take a little bit of work. I usually take a butter knife and kind of slide it down the side and kind of pop each little shredded zucchini puck out. And then we can put them in a gallon-sized freezer bag. But my zucchini muffin recipe calls for 2 cups of shredded zucchini. So this will give me 3 muffin batches worth of zucchini for the winter. That'll be pretty nice, won't it, sis? Yeah. And I will share that recipe when we make them. I'm very grateful that with the pears, I don't know if you guys remember a couple videos ago, with peaches, I had thought I had ordered 2 bushels of peaches, and I ended up having 5 bushels, and it was quite a lot for me to process. So I'm grateful that I only ordered 2 bushels of pears. And so now I need to make a plan for what I'm going to do with these. What I think I'm going to do, they're still, as you can see, this one's still a little bit green. They're not perfectly ripe. So I've got some time to work with these. And just like with the peaches, I need to go through them and sort out the greener ones versus the ones that are ripe. My children will probably eat most of the ripe ones raw. And that should leave us with a bushel or a little over a bushel of pears that I can work with here in the next couple days. So the goal is to make some pear sauce, and I'll show you that process. We'll do some pear pie filling, which is the same exact process as my apple pie filling that I did a few videos ago. And then maybe do some pear butter, which is the same exact process as apple butter. And then if I still have more left, we'll do some canned pear slices. And the process for that is the exact same process as my canned peach slices. So yeah, I'm excited. This isn't an overwhelming amount of fruit. This is very manageable, and we love the taste of fresh pears. So even if we only get to can a bushel of this because we eat so much of it, that'll be a great blessing. The kids will really enjoy this fruit. So just went out this afternoon and harvested about 10 frames of honey. And I've done a video on this before that I'll link in the description of how we extract our honey here. We do it the old-fashioned way. But I've got this set up and got to get this going here so we can make room in the kitchen for other stuff. This is our hive butler here. It's a little tote that carries our honey frames. And so, as you can see, that's just another thing to add to the kitchen right now. It's a busy time of year. Is it yummy? You want some, Levi?
Make sure you don't drip it on the table.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Say thank you, Bees. Don't get your whole hand dirty, silly. That's gross. You're going to make a mess. You have to wipe the table now. Yeah. It is Wednesday, and it's been a busy morning. I got breakfast done, and the dishes all cleaned up. Now I'm working on this mess. I've got a counter full of honey and tallow. So this was hanging all overnight. We got all of the honey filtered, and just the last remains of it are dripping out. You can see just slowly, one drip at a time, kind of filling that jar there. Whoop, drip. And that'll kind of be the last of that. And then today we need to work on rendering that wax to be used for candle making. And then I just got done filling up some more jars of tallow. You can see the gold ones that are still hot. So far I've done 10 quarts of tallow, and we're on our last box of fat. So hopefully I can get some more done here because I'm ready to be done with tallow. And then I got all of the other honey jarred up here. So we got 9 pints and 3 quarts. So probably a 4th quart here by the time we're done today. So this is exciting. Lots of good stuff getting put up today. I can get all of this stored away. And then the main job for today then is to just get through these pears by the end of the day, because tomorrow is Adam's birthday and I would really like to have the whole house cleaned up for his birthday. So I've got a lot of work to do to get this kitchen. It is a disaster, but you know what? It's just that time of year. How can you clean a kitchen that you constantly have in use? So, all right, I better get started. To start on the pears, I'm doing them exactly like apples. There's just a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot, and I slice them up, and these are just going to simmer on the stove and cook down. And as they cook down a little bit, we'll top it off with more pears. And this will turn either into pear sauce or pear butter later on. And then as with everything else, you can save your cores and any little bits, and we can turn this into like a pear jelly or something later on. So this is at least a start, and then we're just going to keep going. I haven't quite figured out exactly what I'm going to do with all these pears, but we will just figure it out as we go. And today is the day I'm going to finally strain the solids out of this peach vinegar I've been working on. I think a couple videos ago I showed you this process. So today I'm going to remove the filter. I'm going to strain out everything that's solid, and then I'm going to put it back into this container, just the liquid. And I'll show you what that looks like. I filtered out all the solid bits and decided to transfer the vinegar into quart jars instead of using the gallon jar, just so I could use that gallon jar for a different project. But it's just so beautiful. I don't know if the color is coming across, but it's a beautiful pink color and it smells amazing, like peaches. So what I'm going to do is just put a coffee filter on top of each one and tie it around, and then let me tell you what I'm going to do with this. Okay, so there you go. I've just got some yarn securely tied around the top. I normally would use rubber bands, but I can't seem to find any right now. So yarn works, and these are all tied. This is just a coffee filter. This will allow this to continue to breathe and absorb some wild yeast and bacteria and whatever from the air that helps us ferment. And so right now, my son just walked down and he said it smells like peach kombucha, and I totally agree. That's what it smells like right now. But this will continue to ferment over the next couple months and get stronger, more of a vinegar flavor. And we will use this in place of apple cider vinegar. It makes a great salad dressing. Any recipe that calls for apple cider vinegar that we want to have a peach flavor instead, we will use this. And it's just really pretty. I love looking at it. So a great use of those leftover peach pits, and it's really healthy for us. The leftover solid bits that I strained out went into our chicken bucket to be fed to the animals, and that'll be a nice little probiotic boost for them. It's really healthy for them. So this will just sit up here on my pantry shelf for about 2 months with the coffee filter on top, and a mother will begin to form on the top here, kind of like a kombucha SCOBY. And then once I get it to the desired acidity, I will remove the coffee filter and put a solid top on it, and then it'll go in long-term storage. But for now, I'll just keep it here where I can kind of keep an eye on it. It shouldn't mold, but I will just check it every now and then, just in case. Now, I have Miss Gracie helping me with the pear slices. Let me show you what we're doing. So she's just slicing our pears and filling our jars with them, saving the cores and cutting off any bad spots. And I prefer, when I'm canning my pear slices, to use them. They're not 100% ripe. They're kind of at a medium ripeness, I guess. I like them a little bit green because the canning process, the cooking process, actually softens them a little bit, and I don't want them turning to complete mush. So I do it when they're kind of at a medium greenness, I guess. And we do this the same way. Oh, she's sneaking some. Are they delicious? They certainly are delicious. But we'll can these the same way we do the peach slices. We just leave the peels on. They're thoroughly washed. We leave the peels on and slice them, and then we raw pack with water. And we're going to try to get as many slices done here this morning as we can. Really grateful for my helper, Gracie. She enjoys doing this canning with me, and it's such a blessing to me. I've got the baby on my back trying to get him to nap, and I just can't do it all alone. Grateful for good helpers. 7 quarts going in the canner for 25 minutes. Our pears are all cooked down, and we have about 8 minutes left on our slices in the canner. So Gracie is running these pears through our old-fashioned food mill that we used for the apples. And we're just gonna jar this up then, and that'll be our pear sauce. Now I have 2 wonderful helpers. What a blessing. Oh, and a John John. John John got a haircut yesterday, didn't you?
Yes.
Thanks to the girls, I got all of this milled down. I've got 4 quarts of sauce to go in the water bath. Honey is still working on dripping out here. And I've got a new batch of sauce started. And then my slices just finished up. So I need to get these out of the canner. And then the sauce will go into the canner for 20 minutes. Here's what happens when you're rushing. You make mistakes. So I was pulling these out of the canner and rushing, and I somehow dropped this. Miraculously, it didn't land. Ooh, that's hot. It didn't land in the glass. It landed on the lid, and as you can see, it like busted it, and then the water started leaking out. So the kids can still eat this, I guess, but that's a shame. I need to slow down now. Slow down. I'm about almost 1 bushel done. So if I combine these, about 1 bushel done. I'm halfway there. The baby would not take an afternoon nap, so we are just pushing through it. I've got a second batch of slices in the canner. I'm working on some pie filling here, and Gracie's working on our second batch of pear sauce. It's just busy, busy. But we're almost through a second half a bushel. So 1.5 bushels down, just a half bushel to go. I put some pineapple juice in with our slices here because I'm out. I don't have any lemon juice that's thawed currently, but pineapple juice does the same thing. That will help prevent browning. So we're just letting those sit there while the pie filling is cooking up. Just working on the filling, and as I mentioned, the recipe is in the description, but I always get questions about why I use arrowroot powder. And it's just because I have it in the house. It's a gluten-free option. I don't typically keep cornstarch in the house, but you could sub equal amounts of cornstarch in this. You can even use clear gel or something like that for your pie filling. We just use arrowroot because that is what we have in the house. All right, it's nice and thick. So we're just going to do our usual layering of the fruit and the goo in our jars here. Gracie's still working on the sauce, working really hard. We are running out of space. I need this honey to finish dripping so I can get this out of my kitchen. Pie filling is all ready to go. We have about 12 more minutes left on the slices, and then we can get that in the canner. And then Gracie's about ready to jar this sauce up. I'm gonna help her get this in jars. Actually, this pear sauce is so watery right now that I've decided we're actually going to put this back on the stove and let it cook down and maybe turn it into pear butter. So that is our next step. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get this contraption out of here, so we just bottled up the last of that honey, which is great. Another quart here, and then we took the comb that the honey came from, and we just put it in these aluminum pans here. These are disposable. You're gonna want to, when you're rendering beeswax, to use disposable pans, because otherwise you're just gonna ruin the pan. So I have a whole video on rendering wax that I will put in the description, but we're gonna do this the easy way today. We're just putting it in these disposable pans, and I'm gonna stick it in the oven on 170, the lowest possible setting, and it's gonna melt down the wax. The wax will float to the top, and any extra honey in here will sink to the bottom, and then I'll show you when we get to that point. Alright guys, it has been a busy day. We have done 4 batches of pear slices, 1 batch of pie filling, and 1 batch of sauce. And I'm here with my baby. Hi! He's eating a little pear before bed. I've got this sauce batch. I was going to turn it into pear butter tonight, but I just do not think I have the energy for it. I'm whooped. I've literally been in this kitchen since breakfast time this morning. Only took breaks to nurse the baby, and that's it. And then we've got our last batch of slices in here that we're working on. So I think I'm done for today. What do you think, Benji?
All done.
All done?
All done.
Yeah? Hey, can you give us a kiss? Say, mwah. So the beeswax that I'm rendering is done. I just shut the oven off, and I'm going to shut this until tomorrow. And then I'm turning the heat off on the sauce, and I'm going to put it in the fridge and then deal with it on Friday. So that's it for tonight. Here you can see the wax and honey that we melted down last night. It cooled overnight in the oven, and the wax is on the top. And see if I kind of press down, there's honey underneath. So what I'm going to do is pour out that honey into a jar. And since this is heated honey, I'm going to keep this separate from any raw honey that I have. And then once we get all the honey out of here, we're going to melt it down again. And then I'm going to filter out this wax to get all these impurities out. I'll show you that later. But I got questions when I posted this on Instagram why I'm using an aluminum pan. And this wax will destroy anything that you melt it down in. So using a disposable pan is just your best option. Go brush your teeth. Why don't you go get started? I'll be in to help you in a minute, okay?
I did put this on my son. I did it somewhere. So no, I will do it. No, I do it. I do it. I do it.
Guys, hey, boys. Just go get it done. Go brush your teeth.
I brushed my teeth.
Here's the honey that we got out of that. You can see it's unfiltered, and I don't have time right now to filter it. So I just labeled it as heated and unfiltered honey so that I don't confuse that with my precious raw honey. And then I put all of the wax back into one container, and I'm going to heat this and melt this down again. And we're going to do the same process, drain off the honey until most of it is gone, and then I can filter out this wax. It is Thursday, and it's Adam's birthday, so I didn't get any canning done because we've been preparing for his birthday all day. His requested meal was some homemade lemonade, and we've got some homemade bread for BLTs that we're going to make, and some fried okra. And then David made him a wonderful cake here. It's just vanilla cake. He used some beetroot powder to make a pink icing, just to be funny. And then I think David has set the table out here. Gracie picked some flowers and made a little birthday banner. So we're just waiting for Adam to get home and we can eat. Yeah. Hi guys. Hi. Happy birthday, Adam. 45. Gracie, eat your food.
49.
45. Hey guys, it's Friday and I'm finally getting around to finishing up this pear butter. It was pear sauce that I started on Wednesday and didn't get around to, and it's been sitting in my fridge. And today I cooked it down. It's nice and thick. And I'm going to loosely follow the pear butter recipe from Ball Canning. And I'm going to add 4 cups of sugar, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and a half a cup of orange juice. And I'm going to mix this all up, and then we are going to get it in jars, and I'm going to process it for 10 minutes in the water bath. So let me show you how that looks when we get done. We ended up with 4 pints here, plus this little extra bit that's going to go in the fridge. And I'm going to get this in the water bath canner. This recipe will be in the description if you're interested in making some pear butter.
Thank you for watching and have a blessed week. Goodbye.